So when understanding about Jesus, the Antichrist, and everything else, and when Jesus is going to return and everything else, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it depends on when we go back in history. Yes, we have little pieces of, I wouldn't say evidence, but we have pieces of history not told by the person himself. Bits of it have been, bits of it haven't. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you go back with a detective mind and you start to piece it all together and that, I come out with two different types of, stories from that, if you want to say stories. So we know that there was a belief system before Jesus rose up because Moses led the Israelites away from Egypt, yes?
Yeah.
So that means that there were Egyptians beforehand, yes?
Yeah.
And that means that there were female leaders
Yeah.
and there were male leaders from the pyramids.
Yeah.
So does that mean that there was one pharaoh that doesn't have a tomb, that hasn't been mummified? If that collapsed down and another one began to rise up. Now the thing is with Jesus, right, when I've seen some of these documentaries portrayed, and again, it's not be all and end all of everything, is it really? It's just one take on it. The individuals that were in power at the time, he was upsetting them. Yeah?
Yeah.
He was really upsetting them with what he was coming out with. And I look at that and think, that's very interesting. And then it would make more sense to me if it was those individuals that paid the Romans to execute him, murder him, if you want to say it in that way.
Yeah.
And then there's talk that the Christ will return, yeah? But Christ was executed, put into a tomb, and then there was this big boulder placed in front of the entrance of the tomb, yes?
Yeah.
And then what? The boulder rolled away and Jesus was resurrected. So, who was the Antichrist then, back then? And why did divine not come down and see to it that the Romans were? And then there's going to be this what? Jesus returns in the Holy Lands.
Yeah.
That's if the story is true. Yes, because I think that there's a lot of... these individuals obviously didn't care about females back in the day. But yet, how do we go from Egyptian pharaohs that were female to man order, a man's world? When we look at the pyramids and that belief system of the gods and everything else, you see, I don't believe in the devil. I don't. I think that's, it's just one of those things that just gets said. I don't believe it. And Antichrist would what? Divide all nations, then make all nations come together, offer promises of salvation and this, that, and the other. I don't know. I just find it a bit... So, no, I don't believe in a devil or anything else like that. But the thing is, how do we go from Egyptians, yes, where we've got female pharaohs, we've got male pharaohs. So there's not a prejudice on male or female. And then we go from that. Moses led the Israelites away from Egypt. And then we go into a man's world where there were only male leaders for a large amount of time, isn't there?
Yeah.
So, and then there's this whole understanding of an Antichrist would come and give you promises of salvation and tempt you. And then what? They're going to make their way to Jerusalem, and there's going to be this big battle unfold between Jesus being, what, resurrected a second time? Third time? Second time.
Second.
And then he's going to come back. And there's going to be this big war onslaught. But then, wouldn't that mean that if the Antichrist is going to be a male, or because it's all he, all he, yes, he.
Yeah.
Does that mean then that God created the Antichrist then, if he's going to rise up as a person?
I don't know.
Think about it, though. I'm just by listening to all of this, it depends on where you come from with it, doesn't it? If you are, what mindset you're in. Are you going to go from a mindset of a detective?
Yeah.
And then, wouldn't the Antichrist then, if we were to take it back from the days of when times of Jesus walked the earth, whether a story you believe, it's up to you what you believe.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be looked at as the order that was already there in place when Jesus was there and he was going to the, I don't know if it was called a temple, I'm not sure what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And he's speaking about, you follow me and you'll be put into you'll be granted life beyond your existence, let's say. I don't know. And you could see some of the individuals that were in that sect.
Yeah.
The ones with the big tall hats and different stuff like that. I don't remember what they're called now. And they were very angry.
Mm-hmm.
Their faces.
Mm-hmm.
In the depictions, it was very And then if they did offer him wealth and a platform to speak, but he had to go away from this sort of narrative and he had to include them, wouldn't they be the ones that paid the Romans to murder him? Because Romans didn't speak that language. So why would they worry about Jesus? Why would the Romans give a shit about someone called Jesus?
They wouldn't.
They were too busy taking over all of these orders. Right? In order to dominate, they were taking over these, yeah?
Yeah.
So, why would the Romans actually care? How would they know what Jesus was saying if it was not translated? And I don't think they had Google Translate back at the day.
No.
And I think translations were, I think it was quite difficult to communicate back in the day, not much as what it is now. We take it for granted because we grow into a world where you can learn a different language quite easily. But back then, man, that must have been some real discipline to even speak a native language. It must have been really challenging. And the Romans are going to be hanging around this area for that long, trying to figure out who Jesus is. Or is it thrown under the bus that he died for everybody's sins, or was it because individuals were like, who's the Romans come rocking up and they're like, who runs this show here?
Yeah.
With their might. Him. And then how did he speak a Roman language, unless the Romans were not Greek, sorry, I don't know the name of what Israel is called. What language did they speak? I forget.
I don't know what language they spoke back then, or which one. They are Jews, so
Jewish,
but it's called probably different. I don't know.
Were the Romans Jewish?
No.
Could they speak Jewish?
Maybe the ones who lived in the land long enough, some of them could. Purely for reasons of collecting tax and stuff like that.
And why wasn't there a big battle happen? Back then. Why did... because that would look like the Antichrist to me, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That's a story that is quite obvious, is it not? So, could it just be that just in case anybody else came with a divine prophecy, and we know that this can happen because... And then, why would you not protect Jesus? Why would you not hide him from the Romans? You hid all of this knowledge from the rest of the world, but you didn't hide Jesus. And then there's that whole not giving a shite about females that they would execute in front of Mary. There would be that whole narrative that women are not allowed to speak out loud and different things like that. We're outside, so we have to keep pausing for a car when it comes by, so yeah, but it's just why they wouldn't harbour that. Why they wouldn't harbour someone who was divine and use it to build into their religion. busy day. So, yeah, and then who's really got something to lose from that, really? I mean, and then we then see the stagnation. I just find it that if anyone is divine, it must be a real challenge to not put your own interpretation into it and come from it really authentically without tarnishing the light.
Yeah.
I'd call that the light. And putting your bit in to gain some control somewhere, rather than stand for democracy. So we sort of move forwards with history, and we start to see the first female leaders, perhaps. And we see a even mix of female leaders, male leaders, female leaders, male leaders, female leaders. And then for a very long time after that, there was nothing but male, 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 male. It's a man's world, it's a man's world. And yet, it seems that anyone that ever gets sort of enlightened, perhaps, or it's the people around the people who become enlightened, in order to keep a control group going or an order going that fits their narrative, they rewrite the story in order to say that, you know, if someone then were to stand up now and say, let's go towards the stars, let's start mining the moon. This person here is offering a false prophecy. Look, it's the Antichrist. And then, because that might not go against the order, that goes against the order, right? So, you know, and then we could be fearful that we ever want to step away from that, because we want to be, everybody I think wants to exist after this existence. I think that is the bottom line, right? Everyone lives in hope, I think. Even atheists, I would say, that is on the verge of, I don't know. I'm open. But it's still a belief. If you were to say to an atheist, would you like to see your family? Which I have asked questions like this, and they'll say, yeah. If there was an after where you could see your family, reunite, it'd be nothing like you see today. Would you want that? And they're like, yeah, that's cool. And I'm like, but then if there's nothing exist after that, they're also cool with that too. That there is nothing. If there's nothing, there's nothing. If there's something, there's something. So I don't think an atheist is truly a non-believer, because to be an atheist and not believe in something, I think it's more correct to say an atheist is someone who doesn't know what to believe in, perhaps. And yeah, so I think that at the end of the day, we have choice. We have a lot of choice when it comes to whether you're divine, collective, or whether you're a normal human. You have, and I mean normal human in the respect that if we live like normal human beings, we have choice. Choice to stay here and get sucked into the sun when it all ends, or we've got choice to do something about our fate. We've seen large battles raged because of this, and I think that anyone that becomes divine in any way, you must be able to forego the temptingness to control the narrative and just leave it as, it's up to you what you do. Do it, don't do it. Believe it, don't believe it. It's up to you, your choice. There's no right nor wrong. But I think the challenge is there. But when I look at this and think about Antichrist and resurrection, and then what there's, it just, if I come from it from an open mind, it's a great story. If I come from it from a detective mind point, there's bits missing. Plus, you've got individuals that would say, you know, this person was like this person was like that, this person was like this, and then could it suit an agenda for it to be this way in order to keep things going the way they are, to keep things going for the best part of 2,000 years or whatnot? And the Egyptians and Mayans and, I don't know. We always know that history is written by the victors. If you think about it, about the way the battle went. They're not exactly, I don't think I've ever heard in history that, you know, we went to battle because we wanted to gain control of a land. We wanted resources. We didn't like what they were doing. You've never heard that. You've never heard that. And you always hear the victory on one-sided. It's always very one-sided. It becomes a bit more trickier to write it in today's world with media outlets everywhere. People themselves living in the area. Plus, we've got the freedom of movement in different areas where people can talk, communicate to each other. There's less barriers of language these days, so there's more of something being said as opposed to what's being hidden. Let's say, you know, and it's a bit more trickier to write the victory narrative. But I think that for one time throughout human history, would they ever be honest? Would they ever be honest about? You know, and it would be no different from here, that the victors, it didn't come from the cat's mouth. It didn't come from the horse's mouth, did it? It came from somebody else's interpretation of that. And then is there a small chance that some of this could be twisted? Especially by the ones that were very irritated about Jesus's presence. They were extremely irritated. And yeah, so again, if this control ratio was found out, and it is true what I say, and again, it might not be, then the victors wrote the way it went. And if others see, wow, that was pretty effective, actually, I'm going to get some of that. You know, at the end of the day, isn't that what it's all about? Garnering control and then keeping you there. So, yes, I believe in a higher power. I do. Do I believe in a devil? No, I don't. There would be non-existence. What would be the purpose in making that? When we look at the way the universe operates, it's more in favor of life. It's less in favor of destruction. Destruction is over and done with within a blink of an eye. When you think about it, the Earth could end within 15 minutes. Depends on how, but still, all life, that's all life, can end within 15 minutes. The solar system, 46 hours, 24 hours, give or take. That's the end of everything here. How quick is that? It's really quick. How long does it take to rear life, bring up life? How many evolutions has it got to go through? How many changes? How many thought processes has it got to go through before it reaches a plateau, let's say, a type of platform? Many years. So if destruction and the end of the solar system could take 46 hours depending on what happened, and then that's the destruction of it all. That's even Saturn, Jupiter, that's huge, right? And that's like, what, 46 hours? But yet the planet has been evolving and the solar system has been evolving for 4.5 billion years. Which one do you think any divine would be in favor of? Death, destruction, or longevity and life?
Life, yeah.
And evolving. So, you know, you can either sit down and think, right, okay, I'm gonna stay here because I'm gonna wait for this and this. And then how do you not know that whole story that hasn't been created and that narrative that's been created isn't the Antichrist disguising itself as a religion? How do you know? This narrative can be looked at in both ways, right? So the Antichrist is always over there somewhere. We're looking for the Antichrist, and we could always be blinded to the fact that it could be this whole freaking narrative for you to stay here, for you not to punch above your waist, to not evolve, to not journey out into the stars, to accept it when the star goes, that's it. And it's kind of a bit weird because if we all listen to that, we are all dragged into that same pot. I'd say that the Antichrist then, if there ever is such one, would want you to do nothing about your fate. Yeah, would want you to stay linked to the planet and don't rise away, because we'll be constantly waiting for something to happen. I mean, that is distraction, really. So Yeah, I'm not sure. So, anyway, let's leave it there. So I'm not saying that it is, and I'm not saying that it isn't, but for me, how do you know that it could be? What he said was talking about this group being the Antichrist, and it could prove it that they nail him to a cross and do different things like that. The non-acceptance of women and females. He was disturbing their order, which, what was your order? Keep you here. Keep you here. Keep you here. And then, if it came to it, that you could do something about your fate using technology and leave the planet and build yourself as another star or another Earth where you could live beyond what the universe, solar system is capable of offering you, at least the star and the planet. If our planet is only designed, by design, to last, let's say, 5.5 billion years, we're at 4.5 billion years, you know, and you build a craft where you could take all humans off of it. When we look at Noah's Ark, we understand that. What about Noah's craft? What would be the difference? So to protect yourself from a great flood is one thing, but you can't protect yourself from a great catastrophe such as your sun giving up or your planet giving up. You see, there's very much, everyone mocked Noah when he was building the ark. Is everyone gonna sit there and call him the Antichrist? No. But yet, if someone comes out talking about space and that's the next place we go, that could be looked at as the Antichrist. It seems to be me that, you know. And then the individuals that write this stuff afterwards, they weren't exactly following Jesus at the time, writing down everything, were they?
No, it was a long time after, wasn't it?
He started to do it after.
Yeah.
And then you're going from memory, and then is there not going to be some group that were pissed off with him? They were pissed off with him, I noticed that. Just when no matter how you play that, they were irritated. You know, they were holding on to their belief system, and he was knocking their belief system, wasn't he? And we know what happens when you knock a belief system. It causes carnage.
Yeah.
So, but given time, you know, if they had time, and then there's the whole thing with the Romans, I just don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense as to why they would even care about that. And then what Romans said afterwards, and then started to echo this forward as a way to be forgiven. So yeah, no, I don't think there's a devil. I think there's non-existence. I do believe in a higher power, and I don't believe in anything below a higher power. And the reason why I don't believe in that is because, you know, that we'd all, if you die and you're bad, you're going to go to hell. It seems too easy, right? That seems too easy, that there's an opposite to a... Nah. I believe it through the human mindset, that there are individuals that perhaps don't want that or have control games and different things like that. That seems more believable. So yeah, I'm going to close this video down, and I'll probably remake this later when I'm less distracted. I just, you know, I wanted to try it whilst being outside for a bit, but I don't know. I'm not sure. There's too much there. It seemed too easy if you had this thing called a devil and everybody goes there after they've done some bad stuff. That's another hierarchy.
Yeah.
What would be the point in that? Ask yourself, if you were a higher power, would you allow that to happen? I wouldn't. I most certainly would not. So I think that it might be such an honor to feel connected to something, and then, I don't know, I think you tarnish it when you start to write your own narrative into it, and you start writing your own outcome from it. That's the very opposite to what I think divine is, what it stands for. I think that's but I understand that human behavior, humans would do that in order to get more people around them, more people gathering out, and you know, and then this silence other voices that might say, hey, but what about this? You know, then it makes people shut up about that. My way or no way. Well, yeah, your way can be good too.
Yeah.
Let's join in together. Let's build something together. After all, haven't you got that freedom of thought?
Yeah.
Freedom of speech? Just like you got the freedom to do something about your fate. Likewise, some people don't want to do anything about their fate. Well, that's cool too, isn't it? You want to stay here and wait, whereas perhaps not the whole of the population actually want to do that. They might want to push beyond. Yeah, we go from pyramids and the structure, and we go from male-female sort of living and leadership. So that means women must have been respected. And then we go from that to disrespecting of females. Again, I stand by it. I think that the first beings that would be classed as the oldest being in the collective is hermaphrodite. Male, female. I don't think it's going to be a man. Man. I think hermaphrodite, and I think all are unique to the story, because if women were so disrespected and different things like that, then why would they have been created in the first place? Do you see? Maybe you don't, but why would there be females? They wouldn't, would they? I nearly fell over there. Actually didn't, nearly just sort of lost my balance a bit, but yeah, let's leave this one here.
Okay.